Hello, brothers and sisters. This is just going to be a short clip here. I've been talking with the Lord and asking Him if He wants me to bring anything. So I'm just kind of playing around today. I'm not going to show my face because I didn't get myself ready. But you can look at my cute little cow there. I love that desktop. That came installed on my computer, on my laptop, and it just gives me such a chuckle that and everybody sees it has to laugh. That cow photo bombing. He's so cute. Okay, brothers and sisters, I don't breathe so well in this bed because it just kind of scrunches me up, and that's a whole different story. I'm not going to try to go into a whole lot of detail and bore you with a whole lot of stuff. So if I sound breathless or my breath is or my voice is weaker than what it used to be, then it's where I've been sick and been in this bed. So excuse me. I wanted to give you a little backstory about why I've been gone for so long. Last spring sometime, I think it was the spring or maybe it was in the summer, my daughter got in a bit of a bind because her landlord, whom was supposedly dying from cancer, had decided to sell the house, and he needed everybody else so he could do renovations. So I took her and her two daughters in up here. We're just like 5 houses apart at that time, till she could get back on her feet and get enough back to find a house. Since then, the oldest has moved out on her own because she was almost 21 at that time anyway. So she had a bunch of cats and stuff, and this is a very small duplex apartment with 2 very small bedrooms. That one bedroom is like what you'd find in the old, it would be about the equivalent of the master bedroom in an old single wide, what they used to be. And then the other one, which was my room, was not much bigger at the present time. I am in a hospital bed in my living room. So just trying to give you a little background there, which is a good thing. You know, if she had to be forced to move out of her home, it was a good time. Because in August of last year, I got COVID, which wasn't surprising because both my daughters had it, and my daughter that lives with me works in the medical field, so I'm not surprised. And at that time, the old hokey pokey in the shoulder was not mandatory, and they were still just talking about it. And they realized they were going to lose a whole lot of staff if they did that, if they enforced that. So it was on a voluntary basis, which we don't, we're not going to go into all that today, but we just say we were anti-vacuum cleaners, okay? Anything to get around the YouTube strike. So anyway, it wasn't a particularly hard case. At that time, a whole lot of the COVID had, been knocked down to a more like a mild flu or cold type of thing. So, there's somebody out front. I hope they're not coming here. Be my luck, since it just got started on my video. I don't think they are. Anyway, so I didn't even realize I was sick that evening. I don't remember if I had even started feeling bad yet or not. I think maybe I was kind of nauseous maybe. And this shows you how fast your whole life can just change, like in just a matter of a handful of hours. So I went to bed and I woke up in the middle of the night throwing up. And it just got worse and worse and carried on over into the next day. And my daughter started telling me, Mom, if this throwing up don't stop, you're going to have to go to the hospital because you're going to dehydrate. And so she was bringing me, ginger ale, which is what I requested. That didn't help. I couldn't keep my tea down. No Diet Coke or regular Coke or anything. I'd take one or two sips and then, in just a few minutes they'd come back up. So I dehydrated really quickly, really badly. So I don't think it was so much the COVID that put me in the hospital as the dehydration. So I went into the hospital, and I think I was there for like 4 days. And I was anxious to get home, of course. And my hip had gotten injured in the ambulance ride because I'm a larger woman, so they did not have the bigger equipment on the ambulance to accommodate a heavier person. And it messed my hip up really bad. For several weeks, I was in major pain whenever they would try to move me and stuff. Oh, excuse me. Nobody pulled your button over there. Nobody pulled your chain, TV. All right. Sorry about that. So anyway, that led into some nerve pain and some numbness in my thigh and my hip, which thankfully to this day, it still flares up and gets touchy, but the pain from like when it first happened or for the weeks after that, I don't have that anymore. They had me on some gabapentin, which you can't stay on for a long term because it can do some stuff in itself, plus, the whole getting, dependent on it and that type of thing. So I had to wing it after that, and I tried some herbal remedies and stuff to help with the numbness. It's funny how part of your body can be numb and still hurt at the same time. It makes me scratch my head, but it does. Anyway, I don't want this video to get too long, so I'm going to move along. So, to make a long story short, they brought me home about after 4 days, being on TennCare or Medicaid. They move you through as quickly as they can. So, unbeknownst to me, and I guess the doctors, I had a pretty bad UTI infection. And I still wasn't, I guess, completely over the COVID. And they brought me home on the big stretcher, but it still was painful. And got me in the house and got me in my wheelchair. At which time I noticed I couldn't move myself around or pull myself up in the chair because of my hip. So I was basically just sitting over here in front of the doorway and had not, tried to even come through the house at all. So up to that time, I could move around in my wheelchair. I could cook. I could clean to a certain extent. Higher places I couldn't reach, and moving heavy furniture and stuff around I couldn't do anymore. Well, I could still move the left seat a little bit to clean behind it and things like that. But this apartment is so small, and the corners are so tight, and the doorways are so small, they didn't accommodate my wheelchair, so I couldn't really clean like I wanted to. Sometime before that, I had gotten to where I couldn't get in and out of the bathroom. It was such a tight squeeze, and I was afraid of falling. Sometimes I couldn't get up off the toilet, so I had not really a hallway, but a small, area walled off from the living room with the 2-bedroom doors and the bathroom straight ahead. Just like six or 7 feet, long, and maybe 4 feet across, 5 feet. No, it wouldn't even be 5 feet. I'd say about 3.5, 4 feet wide. So I had a potty chair that just fit exactly in there, just perfect back in that little cubby hole. So I could get to the door, get up on my walker, use the bathroom, get back to my chair. At night I could get up and go to my bedroom, and on my walker I could get around in my bedroom and get to my bed. Not enough to stand, for a while and do anything like dusting or anything like that, but I could get back around the bed and back to the doorway and back to my chair. So, there was things I couldn't do that I really wanted to be able to do, but I was still, I was okay. I could get to my door and enjoy the fresh air and move around my apartment, and I could get to my desk to do my crafts and stuff. So it was all right. And I had, I could get up and do my Bible study and everything. So I was doing okay as far as that goes. After I come home, and I told you I was sitting there in the chair, and I couldn't move in my wheelchair, and I was just sitting there thinking, this is not good. All of a sudden, I felt like I was going to pass out. And I just kind of sat there for a minute, and I realized, oh yeah, I'm going. So I alerted my family behind me, hey, I'm fixing to pass out. So they all ran to me, and my daughter was all excited and everything, and my granddaughter ran to get a wet rag, and she was just all upset, and I felt myself going. And I felt my head go back, and I was gone. The next thing I know, I couldn't open my eyes, but I came to myself with a searing pain in my chest because my daughter was doing a sternum rub because my heart, not my heart stopped, but I had quit breathing. And they had called 911, and they couldn't get me out of the chair because my daughter was just recovering from COVID herself, and she wasn't strong, strong enough to be lifting me in and out of a wheelchair, and me a heavier lady. So she was doing what she knew to do, being in the medical profession. When she knew she'd had enough medical training to know how to do a sternum rub, and it hurt. So when I came to myself, I said, ouch, like real crankly, like. That made my daughter laugh. But anyway, so they had called the ambulance, and back to the hospital I went. Hadn't been home 45 minutes when I had to go straight back. So this time I was in there for several weeks. And for some reason, they kept me on the quarantine list way past, the 14 days or whatever. And nobody could understand why I was still on the quarantine list. Finally, one of the nurses came down the hall, and they were talking outside my door. And one said, well, how come this lady has not had a bath? And she said, well, she's on the quarantine list. She said, still yet? She said, there's no reason for her to be on quarantine now. She said, well, that's what I thought. So they took down that sign, and she said, get that woman in the shower. So got my first shower in several weeks, and, well, I won't say several. I couldn't get in and out of the shower anyway. I just had to sink bathe, but at least I was bathing. But it had been, I guess, two or more weeks since I'd had a bath because I wasn't able. And I was on the quarantine list. I had the sweetest, this is getting way long, lady that, I keep on saying nurse practitioner, she was too, but aide. I had the sweetest aide. I'll never forget her. And she made my stay so much easier. And she would give me pan baths, and help me wash my hair from those caps. And she was the sweetest thing. And the day that I left to go to therapy, I could tell, they had a hard time finding a place to put me that would take my insurance. And when she found out where I was going, she said, "Oh," and she got real quiet. And so, of course, she couldn't say, "Oh my God, no, don't go there," whatever. But she, the day I left, she went down to the gift shop because she knew I was a Christian. And she wasn't an atheist or anything like that. She just wasn't a practicing Christian. She believed in God. And she bought me a cross necklace with a mustard seed in it. And she said, "Now you keep that mustard seed faith up." She said, "You know that story, don't you?" I said, "Oh, yes, I sure do." So they sent me to this rehab where I was supposed to take rehab. And I'm going to try to wrap this up in a nutshell. It's like 15, almost 16 minutes now. To make a long story short, things didn't go well there. I got very sick. They were giving me stuff that was hurting me, that was making me sicker. Come to find out, this place had a really bad reputation for getting people to sign long-term care just in case, the therapy didn't go well or whatever. So they do things. And I'm not just talking down the side of my neck either. And there's lots of stories. To get you to sign that, then they would keep you dependent as long as they could. That way they had your check. Well, I was like, couldn't do the few times I got to do my therapy, I was doing great. I would have been back on my feet in no time. But they made me so sick I couldn't get up for therapy. So my daughter started becoming concerned. And she said, "I could tell, Mom, you were circling the drain for the last time," she said, which pretty sure was. And I said, "Okay." I said, "Tomorrow I will move home." I said, "It's so late this evening. You just arrange for me to come tomorrow. Come home tomorrow and I will." So I did. They got me in here and my insurance paid for a really cheap, crappy hospital bed. And that's another whole story in itself. But things just have not went well. I've been bedridden since then. My daughter is juggling full-time job, trying to take care of the house what she can, helping her older daughter, taking care of her daughter that's still in high school. She's graduating this year, but of course she still has to be helped, taken care of, and taking care of me. That doesn't leave much time for therapy. Somehow we lost contact with the therapy, and something happened there that they weren't coming in. My daughter would get me up as often as she could. Things have just progressed, and I became sicker and more depressed, and more depressed, and more depressed, to where I couldn't even hardly function. I just dreaded each day. Many problems with the bed that were causing a lot of problems with my skin, so on and so forth, and just losing, what mobility I had left in my legs. I'm sorry, but God is on my side. He's always on my side. I believe that I'm in here for a reason, that I'm in this season for a reason, and I believe with all my heart that it's going to change, and it's going to change very soon. I would that you would pray for me. This is getting up on 20 minutes, and I don't want them to cut me off, so I ask you to pray for me, and I will pray for you, and I'm going to do some more videos. And my friend Crystal, L4J Rapture, she did a video today. You need to go watch her duckies at her ducky pond, and I feel led by the Lord to do some videos about getting prepared for Jesus' return. So I want to say bye for now. I love you all very much, and I will be back soon. Um, Talk to you later.